Welcome to Rising Goddess Radio. I'm your hostess, Michelle Torrance. I created Rising Goddess Radio to be a space where we dive deep into our spiritual, emotional, and physical bodies. We're getting real and connecting with ourselves in the most intimate ways. We'll be talking all things sacred sexual, relationship building, and womb healing. We'll be learning how to connect with our bodies through learning the language it speaks, how to use our sexual and sensual energies to create, manifest, and heal our lives. This show is about healing the chaotic feminine and toxic masculine within to create a world that responds to the divine and healthy energy you chose to tune in, tap in, and turn on. We will learn from amazing humans who take time and share their wisdom and sacred healing magic, rising humans who are here in this world to be healers, teachers, guides, priestesses, warriors, and shamans. All divine sisters and brothers in rising. We'll get witchy, sassy, sexy, and saucy. We're going to talk all things that align us with our true nature and authentic selves and create a community that expands with the ascension and growth of each of us. So grab some green juice, light some cannabis, get your blankets, or sit by the pool because we are about to rise up another level together. Catch you on the inside, dolls. Hello, my beautiful rising humans, and welcome to this next episode of Rising Goddess Radio. This episode, we have the beautiful Lola Miles on the show. She is an intuitive life coach, a witch, a powerful shamanic healer, and a talented artist. Lola uses a combination of shamanic energy work, magic theory, and counseling concepts to help ambitious women overcome trauma and deep-rooted beliefs to embrace the inner rebel while creating the life of their dreams. She also creates one-of-a-kind energetic artwork that helps her clients amplify their desired outcomes. Lola is dedicated to reconnecting women with their truest selves, advocating for magic work, and bringing humanity back to nature. This episode is a great episode. Lola and I have great conversation about magic, mundane magic, ritual magic, and her dogs come to make an appearance, and we have a little bit of technical and sound issues. So if the sound is going in and out a little bit on this episode, we can go ahead and just roll with it. I did quite a bit of editing on it, so hopefully it doesn't go down too much for you. If you haven't already yet, come join the Rising Goddess group over on Facebook. We'd love to have you in there. And definitely go and follow me on Instagram. It's at the Rising Goddess _. That is at the Rising Goddess _. And of course, head on over to the Facebook, and that's Michelle Torrance - the Rising Goddess, or Facebook.com at Rising Goddess Radio. So head on over there, head on in, enjoy this episode, and come have the conversation with us and express your witchery to us, express your feelings, your thoughts, your desires, and come rise up. So I'll catch you on the inside. All right. Hello, my beautiful rising humans, and welcome to this next episode of Rising Goddess Radio. Today, you've heard my intro, but my guest today is Lola. She is beautiful. We met actually very quickly in this random by chance post that she made, and I felt just this very strong connection to her. And so when we had a little brief meeting a few days ago, I invited her to be on the show because I just feel like her energy and her passion and her purpose and what she's here to serve would really speak to all of you out there. So Lola, welcome to the show.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for that intro. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, the first question that I love to ask all of my guests in the very beginning is, what do you love about being a human right now in this time and space?
Ooh, my favorite thing is learning to, and I've been doing this most recently, combining magic and technology.
Oh gosh, we're going to get into that.
That is something that witches of the past just didn't have an opportunity to do. I mean, they did it with the technology that they had, but just the digital age and witchcraft together just really excites me.
I love that. So let's just dive right into that, because that's such an amazing answer and such a magical answer. And we have so many witches who follow the show, and some of them, I'm going to say probably about 50% of them don't fully understand or realize what a witch actually is. So let's start at the basic. You've been a practicing witch for 20 years plus years, right?
Almost 20 years. So about
Almost.
18, 19 years. Yeah.
Okay. So share with us when you were younger and when you were a kid, what was your life like? Who was Lola as a child? What experience happened that allowed you to blossom into your authenticity as a witch? And how did that transform you into today?
So I actually came from an abusive household. So I was born into a household where my biological father was abusive on multiple levels. And so for me, nature was where I turned to immediately. It just made more sense because I did feel safe in the home. So it was more felt safe within this space with people. So I was able to go into nature and even before I knew what spells were, practice things and speak to animals and feel close to the trees and the birds and the earth and feel like my mother and my father were there rather than relying on this not so safe place in the home.
I love that. And when you were a kid and you would go out and you would feel in this, it's almost like this security bubble. With nature, like when did you have this connection with animals? Like have you always, let me rephrase that question. When you would go out, have you always had this kind of connection with animals where animals would come up to you or feel very calm and safe around you? Do you have a connection with plants where they tend to grow around you more? Do you have this magical connection with earth beings? Do you feel that you have that and that you draw them to you?
The animals, for sure. I even remember a bird was found when I was outside with children in first grade. And I remember hearing them as they were bringing it to me, bring it to Lola, she'll know what to do.
Mm.
So that for me has absolutely. I've always wanted to be surrounded by plants. I can't say that I have the best green thumb. If they're outside, I can grow them like wild. If they're inside the home, for some reason, they get temperamental with me. And if I move them for any reason, suddenly they just start dying. So, but yes, I've always felt like even now we are trying to find plants in the area because we live in North Dakota and there's not a lot of plants outside, obviously, with it being freezing cold temperatures sometimes of the month or sometimes of the year. And so I have actually felt like my house is not a home because it doesn't have any plants.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that feeling. It seems like with plants coming in and having them within the home. We lived in Iowa for many years, for about 10 years. And in the winter, obviously, it's, snowstorms, you get it. And so having plants inside is definitely something that continues to keep stirring the life energy around. So I totally get that for sure. So let's talk a little bit about when you realized, or, well, was it a realization? Was it an acceptance? Was it a mixture of both when you started fully practicing everything?
Well, for me, I actually didn't know what it was. So I had been doing some of it because I don't believe that you have to do ritual magic in order to be a witch. So there were some things that just came naturally to me.
Yeah.
But when I started to look into ritual magic and actually casting and those types of things, I had met another individual first. He was actually the boyfriend of a person that was my roommate. And he started telling me about it and things started to make sense and clicked into place. I mean, I was raised as a Catholic, and although we didn't go to church later in life, we still had this, connection to God and the Bible and Jesus and so forth. And so I had actually gone to Barnes and Noble. This was back in the day, back in the 90s, before there was a lot of stuff on the internet and nobody talked about witchcraft because it was still taboo. And I went into a Barnes and Noble, and I went and asked them where the witch books were. And they said, oh, it's in the, the fiction section. So I went
Yeah.
and found some books. And as I was looking, one happened to fall off the shelf.
I love it when that
And,
happens.
yeah. And so I started reading it. Some very strange things started to happen. That's for another time. But yes, that's when I realized there was definitely this connection, because again, the book just kind of started solidifying and validating all of those feelings that I'd already had, all those
Mm.
thoughts, all those things that made sense connection wise. And so that's what started me on my path.
And when you started that, and because being raised Catholic with, Bible background, Jesus background, when you started to really kind of understand and have it make sense in this and you were transitioning, did you feel like a lot of old beliefs or blocks come in, that shame come in or anything like that come around you and try to kind of sway you from moving forward in this? Or how did you work through that? Or did you feel you had to work through some of those transitions?
To be completely honest, I wasn't quite as indoctrinated. Like I said, towards the later parts of my life, my late teens, or my mid teens to late teens, as long as you believed in God in my household, it was fine.
Okay.
So when I started to get into paganism and witchcraft, there weren't a lot of hurdles for me to jump, because my parents at the time um, weren't really necessarily going to church. So there
Okay.
wasn't a lot there. When I did come out to them, that was the hurdle. They thought this was a fad. My dad at one point got really upset and walked out of the house. I think they thought this was just something that an 18, 19-year-old was going through. And that, yeah, we'll be kind of accepting. We think she's silly for it. And, this will go away eventually. And then it just never did.
Mm. And how's your relationship with them now? Or how do they, is it just a natural part of who you are now when you talk with your parents? Or is there still a little bit of like it's still kind of uh, a phase?
So, no, actually, it's very interesting, because my mom was raised devout Catholic, and we're talking going to church. Mom was very much into carrying rosary beads and doing confession weekly. And I mean, what you think of when you think Catholic, my grandmother was, and my mom was brought up in that household, went to parochial school.
Oh, wow.
So, when I was talking about it later on in life, my mom was obviously, being a mother, was, oh, okay, tell me more about this. And as time has gone on, my mom has actually embraced more of her witch, and actually claims to be more spiritual rather than believing in God as the church presents God.
Mm.
She is into crystals. She actually, for my birthday, sent me witch books.
Oh, wow.
So dad, he's okay. This is okay. This is just my daughter. I don't know if he's necessarily accepted it as a thing, but he's accepted it as his daughter.
Okay. Well, and I think that's all we can really do with the humans in our life, is just really accept them as who they are and trust that they accept us as who we are. So what I love, you said that you didn't really get into ritual magic later. And when you and I spoke earlier, you talked a lot about mundane magic. So I'd love for you to dive in a little bit and share with us, what is mundane magic, and how can people, and whether women or men, how can humans really start to understand that they are practicing mundane magic, and that they may have this alignment and connection with earth and all of the elements naturally? So share a little bit with us on all of that.
So mundane magic is, as I mentioned before, in the time that I was small, going outside and touching a plant to feel connected, going and taking I didn't walk with shoes unless I was going to school when I was younger.
Mhm.
That feeling of being grounded, that feeling of being connected to something. Climbing trees, going out and sticking your hands in dirt because you like the way it feels.
Yeah.
Um, Lighting a candle because it creates an ambiance for your room, or a feeling for a situation or an event. Those are all magic things. But there's also the everyday mundane magic that is the fact that the light from the stars can reach us millions of years. It's been traveling to get to us. The fact that brain chemicals know exactly what to do when you meet a specific person and creates the feelings of love or euphoria or lust or connection to that person like you've known them forever.
Mm-hmm.
That is everyday mundane magic, and you can tap into that. I mean, it's as simple as I need a paperclip, and a paperclip shows up in your life. That's mundane magic. It's everyday magic that you don't have to concentrate on. You don't have to do anything about. It's just there. It just is.
It's just there. It just is. I'm just going to stop. I'm going to repeat that one more time for all of you out there. I'd love for you to just tap into this for 1 second. It just is. It's such an amazing, comforting feeling. I know for me, realizing that and knowing that everything, right, whether you call it, and this may be for people who might have a little bit of maybe apprehension to call or use the word magic, but you could describe it as energetic miracles. You could describe it as miracles. You could describe it as whatever word that you can work towards magic. I think because there's such a conditional taboo around the word magic that instantly we think, everybody goes to Harry Potter nowadays, but I mean, for me in my day, it was The Craft. So it was definitely a word that took time for me to actually be able to accept that word because of my own conditioning. My background is a lot more Christian-based teachings, a lot more of the fear-based teachings of the Bible. And so magic was instantly sinful. So for those of you listeners out there who are listening right now and you've been curious about your own magic, tap into the natural, mundane magic that Lola talks about and see how your vibration and your energy shifts. What does a magical day look like in your world?
Ooh, that's a good question. So one of the things that I try to teach my clients a lot is that magic doesn't have to take a lot of time. It doesn't have to take a lot of preparation. It's small things. So for instance, if I've had a hard day and maybe I've had a lot of calls and they've been very deep, or perhaps I've done a lot of journaling, or is my favorite thing to do is take a bath and just drop some salt. I keep a salt shaker, one of the big, containers of Morton salt in my bathroom. And then I will just say a little something as I sprinkle salt into the bathtub, and then just get into the bath and allow myself to detox. For right now, like as an example, I noticed that with Yule and Christmas and so forth, just having consumed a lot more things that I wouldn't normally consume, I was noticing as the new year came that there was some energetic things happening. So physically and emotionally, I felt like I just needed something different. So I am currently on a 3-day fast. I'm on day 2 of a 3-day fast.
Oh, congratulations.
Thanks. And that is not to lose weight. That is to reset myself energetically and physically, to reset the gut microbes. And energetically, it just makes me feel more clear, and it gets rid of that sugar addiction and so forth. And so it's just small things like that. I mean, I don't necessarily visit my altar every single day. I do look at my altar every single day. I might light a candle on my altar every once in a while. I might light incense on my altar every once in a while. But I think it's just really, for me, magic is maintaining that connection to earth and earth beings in some way. So, maintaining that connection through my dogs by taking them for a walk, maintaining that connection through my plants, maintaining that connection through my husband, maintaining that connection through my friendships, being cognizant through recycling, those types of things. Those feel magical to me, even without the ritual stuff. And then ritual stuff might be a full moon ritual, a new moon ritual, journaling, speaking to my guides, that type of thing.
I love that. And really the basis of what it is that you teach people is that life itself is magical.
Mm-hmm.
And when you can tap into the vibration of magic, that magic every day, waking up and saying I love myself is magic. And what I love that you said is when you say a little something, and for those of you out there, when she was talking about like pouring some salt and then just saying a little something, I don't want you to get hung up on like, well, what do I need to say? What do I have to say? It's not a matter of what you say. It's you will feel it when you are doing little things to continue to tap into your magic. Your intuition, your higher self, your internal magic will naturally tell you what to do. You don't have to think, you'll just say it. It'll feel right for you. And I think that's, really a lot with what Lola teaches. And that is really, we're going to get into what it is that how you can offer services and how people can find you and everything like that too. So we'll get into that. But I think it's just so important. There's so many expectations, I think, in the world for so many different areas. And as we are coming into this awareness of our witchiness, our recognition, our realization, our acceptance of it, then it goes into like another pendulum type swing, right? Where people feel like they have to do this massive amount of bullshit just to be that human, when ultimately what Lola is telling us is no. All you need to do is just tap into your own self, your own magic. Hello, my beautiful rising humans. I just wanted to pause this episode real quick and hop in here to remind you that my one-on-one Voxer packages are available. This is one-on-one private work together where we are making massive shifts together. This is for the next level goddess who is already awakened, who is already working towards desires and healing and growth. And this is for this next level goddess who is ready to dive deeper, really remove the shed of ancient lines and make some swift, quick, rapid results and changes in their relationships, their connection with their self, their business, and the manifestations in this world. So head on over to therisinggoddess.com and make sure you head on into Voxer packages and come and let's get started. Let's start making these changes, making these ripples throughout the world and awakening people faster and faster while you awaken your desires and create your world faster and faster in a fun and exciting and passionate way. Now, back to the show. Let's talk a little bit about ritual magic. Let's talk, I'm all about on this channel, we're all about new moons, full moons, anything with the moon is all that we're about, as well as menstruation and connecting all of that together. So do you do ritual around your menstruation, or do you do rituals every full moon or every new moon? Or do you do it when you feel really called for a level of rising up or ascension?
So there's different ways I practice this, and it changes day to day, week to week, month to month. Ritual magic for me sometimes is where I do it all out. I prep throughout the day. I get all my ingredients together and I cast a circle. I do all of that. Sometimes I do new moon. Sometimes I do full moon. One of the rituals that my husband and I try to keep up with, that is one of his favorite parts of me being a witch, is every full moon we have sex.
Oh, absolutely.
So it is full moon sex time. Doesn't matter when the full moon happens. We're making sure that we're having sex. And even some things like my husband doesn't like it when it's really dark in the bedroom, and on full moons, the blinds get opened.
Yes.
So that full moon light can pour in. So those for me are rituals. But yes, because sigils actually are something that I learned how to do a few years ago. They're something that I actually teach now. I have my own method of doing them, and I actually do something called an intricate sigil, which isn't quite as common in the sigil realm. And so I typically, if I'm going to do a ritual, there's usually a sigil or a candle involved, one of those two things. So did that answer your question? Because I got kind of lost in all
I'm
the
just, I'm
rituals
having
that I
such a great
do.
time. I got, we're going to circle back around to ritual and sex magic because we wouldn't be on Rising Goddess Radio if we didn't talk a little bit about that.
Mm-hmm.
But no, you did pretty much answer my question as some ritual, what types of ritualistic magic that you do. And what I love so much, and this is, again, just another confirmation or validation for you out there listening, that she says it changes because she's not one person constantly one vibration at the one moment and one thing doesn't work for her. Her magic changes with her. Her rituals change with her. When she is rising and spiraling up into her awesomeness, her rituals will change with her. And that is really where you don't want to tie yourself down. There's routines, there's things that you can do. So don't turn your magic into a rule, you know?
Yes,
I think,
exactly.
yeah, I think that that's definitely something, and as humans, we can tend to do that. I mean, we start to get into a routine, and then all of a sudden, it's like then that routine turns into, well, now I have to do it every day, and I've got to do this rule, and then it takes away the whole purpose of the alignment with the magic. So let's circle back around real quick because you did touch on full moon sex. And again, we are Rising Goddess Radio. We are all about sex magic. So when you and your husband do your full moon sex rituals, do you go in with intentions of doing sex magic together and releasing and manifesting together? Or do you go into this with more of the connection with each other, utilizing the full moon with more of a connection with each other?
More about having a ritual together and feeling that connection rather
Okay.
than manifesting together. There have been a couple of times where I've said, okay, I'm manifesting something, or it is just, we are just feeling that connection together. It's something to look forward to.
I love that. I love that. I think that's fantastic. And that's something out there that, for those of you who are new into your witchery and your spouse is curious and wanting to support you in this way, then these are fun ways where you can include them. And, my husband sets his crystals out with us on the full moon. My son, we all set our crystals out. We all have different ones that we have. And, we create moon water and he collects rainwater for me for any sort of spells or rituals that I want to partake in. And so I think it's really great having a spouse or a partner who's supportive of what it is that you love and do. Has your spouse always been supportive of you with your witchiness?
Yes, because I was at that point, I was 25, 26, and I had been doing this practice for a very long time. So this was kind of like, this is who you're getting. If you don't like it, take a hike. If you
Yeah.
do like it, stick around.
Yeah, right. Let's see what magic we can create together, right?
Right.
I love.
And he doesn't necessarily have a magic practice himself. He does the same thing like you were talking about. He'll put crystals out with me, like for the solar eclipse
Mhm.
this past year. It was like a big thing. The whole family brought stuff out that we wanted charged.
Oh, fun.
Um, so and my son has always grown up that the pagan holidays we do some type of special food that we will eat. So he's grown up that way too. But yeah, it's he's been supportive in that way. Yes.
That's fantastic. So let me ask you this: if um, you work with women, especially with learning, to tap into mundane magic, and when you're working with women, if they're really new to their witchiness, they're new to their magic, and they have a partner that doesn't really support them, or and it could be maybe not so much support from a place of I just don't support you, but more of lack of knowledge, or maybe um, a fear based thing. What would you say to listeners out there who are with a spouse who may not fully understand or support their magic? How would you be able to help them what would you tell them to continue to keep moving into their truth? How would you express that support, if that makes sense?
Same way the Christians integrated paganism into their beliefs. And that is by making it part of the regular everyday ritual a family. So one of the things that I did when I first started to come out publicly to everybody, not just my, I made a New Year's resolution that I wanted to get closer to my practice, and I wanted to learn more about the pagan holidays and the cycle of promise to myself that I would actually start making bread that were associated with these particular times of the year. And it started where I was like, how can I share this in a way? Because I'm not going to eat all this bread, obviously. How can I share this in a way? And my husband was already looking forward to bread. Then I started taking it to work and giving it to people and telling them what it was for. And then they started enjoying it. And then the next thing you know, I'm making 13 loaves of gear, splitting them in half, giving them away to people. And everybody's like, okay, what's this holiday? And why are we using these herbs? And what kind of bread is this? And when is the next one coming? And you get them excited by introducing it to them in a way with something they're already connected to, that Dan already liked.
I love that. That's such great advice. And it seems fun too. It's like an adventure that you can take with yourself and with your spouse. And it's creating something, and whether it's your family too. So I love that. So talk with me a little bit about what is your passion project that you're working on right now? I know you and I had our conversation, so I'd love for you to dive deep into that, and anything else that you're working on that is here to support people rising up into their magic.
So my main focus, and this has been kind of manifesting itself over the last few years, is actually bringing magic mainstream, taking the taboo out of magic so that people can understand there's different types of magic, there's different forms of magic, and just as with any other thing that takes responsibility, there's going to be some people who do bad things with it. There's going to be some people who choose to do good things with it. I would say 99% of us out there that are doing any type of magic, whether it be law of attraction, manifestation, or all the way to full out rituals, 99% of us are out there doing good things. We want to feel that connection to earth. We want to feel that connection to ourselves. So, yeah, I that's my main thing. My other thing is just creating programs and doing things that kind of support that, bringing magic mainstream. So one of those being that I'm running a launch on a course right now called Basic Witchery, where people can learn how to do ritual magic. And that's not to say that you can't go out on the internet and you can't learn about ritual magic, but it's no different than watching a YouTube video and learning how to cook. If you really want to learn how to cook well, you go to a chef or somebody who does it professionally and you learn the basics.
Yes.
That's exactly what this course is. It's learning how to do the basics. I teach you how to make your own recipes. I teach you how to keep those recipes. I give you the foundation so you don't have to look in all the books. You don't have to look all over the internet. You don't have to ask a whole bunch of people. And then the next project that I'm very, very excited about, and my assistant is actually so excited about, that she decided that she's now wanting to be my assistant full time. So
that's so great. Congratulations.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, it was just like at first it was just, hey, I need you 5 hours a week. And now she's like, no, what do we need to do to get me full time? And I'm like, okay. And that is actually creating a publication, a magazine that is Mystic Rebel Arts Magazine. And so I'm actually the creator of Mystic Rebel Woman, and it has kind of, morphed itself into Mystic Rebel Arts. And this magazine is it's a free publication. You get on the email list and you get it delivered to your inbox. And it's going to have the two things that I love, and that is, technology and magic. And I think that the difference on why publications are dying elsewhere and why this one is going to be so exciting for those of us who do magic is because typically we keep a recipe book of some kind, whether that's a journal, a grimoire, a book of shadows. Mm-hmm. What I wanted to be done with this magazine is it's not only education, but there's going to be real things that you can take away from it, that you can print out from it and put in your grimoire to keep.
Mm.
Whether that be a bath tea where you're learning to work with these herbs and these incense and these essences and these oils, or it being learning how to use this particular sigil, or it be a guided meditation, or it be a new moon ritual, or the sky is the limit on what you can actually do for an activity. And I think this is really exciting because it's going to help me bring magic mainstream. It's going to kind of take some of the taboos and the misinformation that's out there about for instance, the difference between dark magic and evil magic. Most people think that if you are a dark magician, you're out there slaughtering cats and goats, right, and harming people. And no, dark magic can actually be classified as sex magic. It can be classified as working with people who are grieving. It's the shadow side of things. It's
Yes.
not the evil side of things.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that this is going to be not only educational, but it's also going to be something that's practical that people can actually use in their day-to-day lives.
I love it. I love it so much. I'm so excited. I swear, you should have heard me, everybody out there listening, you should have heard us when we were on the first call when we were talking together. I was like lit the fuck up when she was talking to me about it, because it's so true. It's so important. There's a difference between shadow work and evil dark magic, where you can tap into your Sith. And just because you tap into your Jedi doesn't mean your Jedi doesn't come with shadow work, right? It takes the light to cut through the shadow. And sometimes when you got to go through, you got to have that. You're not going to be able to get to the truth if you don't go around that shadow. And learning the difference between those two is so important as well. And I think that that's where a lot of misconception comes in, is that dark magic, which you so clearly helped explain, is not evil magic. It's not somebody going around, skinning cats and, doing all of these terrible things. What it is helping through grieving processes, right? What it is doing the shadow work in that aspect. And I have a black candle because there's times where you need to be able to diffuse whatever is happening in this energetic vibration, and depending on experiences that come into your life, understanding how to utilize the shadow aspect of yourself and your magic is key. And by having Lola bring it mainstream, the fear is taken out. And when we can take out the fear, then we can face the shadow and realize that our shadow is there for us, with us. And so I love it. I'm just so excited for you. I'm so excited for the collective to be a part of all of this with you. And I'm really excited for just the advancement and the rise and the connection that people are going to have. They're going to have things that are going to start to make sense again to people. And they're going to be like, oh shit, that really does make sense. Maybe I should get curious. And curiosity is the cure for sleepiness. It's time to wake up. And if that means waking up to the magic that you are, then let's do that. Let's fucking do that. So before we can go into before we go into where people can find you, how they can reach you, how they can work with you, I have just a couple little fun questions. Mm-hmm. Because I'm a big old dork and I like being a big old dork. But what was the last thing you Googled?
Oh gosh.
That's my favorite one. Everybody stumps on that one.
I think it's today. Mm-hmm. And I Googled how to care for a Portuguese water dog because I'm watching a friend's dog, and I was curious about the coat and whether or not I should brush and bathe this dog with my own dogs. And I was like, how do you care for their coats? So I went and looked up their personality and everything.
That's fantastic. And you learned something new about the dogs.
I sure did.
That's great. What spiritual or energetic or mental or personal development text, audio, video are you all about right now? Learning from, reading?
Oh, so I'm reading The Green Witch right now.
Ooh, okay.
I can't remember who the author is, but I'm reading The Green Witch. And as far as I love Instagram for their hashtags. I don't necessarily have a particular person that I'm absolutely in love with. I can say that Mama Medicine is one of the people that I love following on Instagram.
I follow her too.
Because I do healings. And so I do have this shamanic connection. It turns out I have a shamanic connection that goes back to my first life. And my guide is actually a shaman from my first planet, my first life.
So we need to talk about that, because that'll be a whole nother conversation that we can have so much fun with. I am all down for all of that.
Yes. And then, so I feel that connection there, and I love that. And then, one of the podcasts that I'm really liking is, Hippie Witch.
Ooh.
And she just likes to talk at you and give you some ideas about, what she feels about certain things in witchcraft. So she for instance, talked about the witch's pyramid, and how one of the things that they talk about in the witch's pyramid is keeping your practice silent, and how she didn't agree with that. I was like, yes, I don't either. Thank God I'm not the only one out in the universe that doesn't think we should keep our practice silent.
Agreed.
So yeah, those are some things that I now, in all the areas. So like the physical, the tech, whatever. Yeah.
I love it. Are you familiar with Lisa Lister?
I am not familiar with Lisa Lister.
She wrote a book called Witch.
Yes.
Okay.
I read it. Yes, I didn't realize that was her name.
Yes, Lisa Lister. She wrote a few other books, but she's all about your menstruation in your womb, and I definitely love her as well, and I'm going to definitely check out this Hippie Witch, her podcast. So thank you for that. What piece of music or song or piece of music or song embodies your being right now?
So this is going to be really funny to say. Let me pull up her song so that I can give you the person's name.
Okay.
It's actually a Christian song.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny? It's funny because we could talk about this a whole nother time too, but my relationship with the man Jesus is definitely changed since I've accepted my witchiness.
Jesus is legitimately my homie. Okay. I am cool with Jesus. I just don't necessarily believe he was brought down to earth to save me. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
But do I have a conversation with him every once in a while? Do
Most
I invoke him when I need to? Absolutely. Yes.
Yes.
And being raised Christian, I didn't completely separate that out of my life. You know what I mean? There are certain practices that I can definitely still relate to, that sense of community, like the truest sense of community, not the gossipy sense of community that happens sometimes when big groups get together. But some of their songs, like for instance, I Can Only Imagine, I feel like that would be me if I met Source or my guide. So I actually changed the name God in it for myself. This particular song, I feel like I'm actually speaking to higher self, although she refers to God in it. Mm-hmm. But it's You Say, and it's by Lauren. I'm probably going to butcher her last name, Daigle, and it's Daigle.
Okay. Lauren Daigle. We're going to roll with it. Yeah, we're going to roll with it. I'm going to check it out for sure. Because, for those of you out there, I've talked a little bit about, my transition. I was actually baptized Greek Orthodox when I was very young. So I was part of that, which is a lot like Catholicism. It's 3-hour sermons, chanting in Serbian, and then an hour of English talking and all the incense and walking through. And
a lot of guilt.
A lot of guilt. Like that's what you went to church to realize that you were going to be guilty just for being in church, and that you were going to leave and all the guilt was still going to be there.
Right.
Human. But there were moments when I was younger where there was a smaller connection with me and a couple of children, or a couple of the women of church where, they would cook on every Sunday, you know what I'm saying? So then after that, we would go to the big cafeteria and then everybody would eat together. And it was like everybody was there all day, right? But some of those experiences held for me. And then I had one experience when my Bubba died, my grandma, and Father Nick was the main priest at that time in the church. And he looked exactly like the icon of white Jesus.
Whoa.
Yeah, down to the blue eyes and everything. And I felt Source's spirit run through me, because as I was crying, and as soon as I hugged him, he hugged me, and I felt the vibration come through. And so that kept me holding on to the base vibration of Source. And I had to work through the conditioned fear of what I was taught. And so I understand having that still a connection and still a little bit of a base with it, and finding it. And for me, I had to swing all the way up to one side of the pendulum, right? Everything was gone. I didn't want to do anything with God, Jesus, nothing. And then I came back down and realized that, doing a little bit of work, reading the Magdalene manuscript, realizing that there was a lot more to the man Jesus than what I was taught. And so I think it's great that, and this is just an example for people out there, just because you accept and allow yourself to tap into your magic doesn't mean that you are completely abandoning whatever it is that you had a connection to.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not one or the other. You can incorporate all things that feel good for you. And I think that's what's so awesome about Lola bringing mundane magic and expressing and sharing and teaching what that is, but then also bringing magic to the mainstream so that people can actually have the truth, however that presents itself to them, for them to tap into. So I love it.
I will say before we move on that a lot of the times I will suggest this book to my clients if they came from a very strong Christian background.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot remember the author's name, but it's called Millionaires of Genesis.
Ooh.
And this was actually suggested to me by a coach that I was working with that had a strong Christian background, although she was coaching a witch. And she knew that I had this connection from my past of the Christian indoctrination. And basically, it just is a different interpretation of the Bible and how the Bible actually talks about abundance and manifestation, and that it's not evil or bad to want these things, that it's not something to feel guilt for. And my assistant has actually been reading it, and it has been releasing loads off of her shoulders, and it's making it easier for her to explain things to her very Christian mother, who very much does not want her to, practice.
Yeah.
And I think that it's, just a good idea to sometimes get a different interpretation and realize that, like you were saying, that you can have that connection to your past. Because think about it. If you get down to the nitty gritty, if you get down to the basic concepts of all religion, they all have something in common.
Yes.
If you get down to the core of them, before, man got a hold of it and corrupted it, at the core of them, they all have the same connection. So just because you choose to call God something different, and you choose to pray in a different manner, and your prayer is a ritual rather than sitting in front of an altar at church, you can still use that. You can still be that. You don't have to completely get rid of your identity to become a witch.
Yes. Thank you for saying that. I'm going to just repeat that for all of you out there. You do not have to get rid of your identity to become a witch. You're enhancing the human that you are by allowing yourself to receive the magic that you are. Oh, that was wonderful. I love that. Lola, thank you so much for being on the show. Where can people find you? How can they reach out to you? How can they connect with the vibration of you?
So I have a Facebook page, Lola Miles Coaching. That's my business page.
Okay.
And then mysticrebelwoman.com. They can actually go there and they can see what things I have to offer. I'm starting to put blogs on there. And then Mystic Rebel Woman is my Facebook group. Now, currently, we are transitioning into moving it into women and men, but right now it is just women. But Mystic Rebel Woman is my group where I share a lot of information about my daily life things. And I also share about manifestation and ritual and education on magic and pretty much anything that I think relates to magic, whether it's fringe science or it's, what kind of herb is good for helping a cold. I do it all.
I love it. Everybody out there who's listening, find yourself moving towards her group, to her website, and get curious on the fact that you've been practicing magic your whole life. You just haven't realized it. And find a spot where you can feel supported. And that's what Lola provides. She provides that safe space, the non-judgment, the container for you to explore your magic. So I love that. Thank you so much, Lola, for being on the show. I'm really excited for you. I'm excited for the collective. Again, I'm excited for everything to expand, and I can't wait. A year from now, I can't even wait to see how much magic is flowing through the world. It's going to be so fantastic. So all of you out there listening, thank you so much for hanging on to this episode. Make sure you go check her out. Head on over to Rising Goddess Group on Facebook. Join our group over there as well. And we will catch you on the next episode. Later.